stared down a long comprehension passage in your ICSE English paper and felt that clock ticking just a little too fast? Well, you are in exactly the right place. We are going to break down a super clear, really effective strategy to turn that anxiety into pure confidence. So let's get ready to crack the code on comprehension.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll tackle the comprehension challenge head-on. Then, we'll learn how to read like a detective. After that, we'll decode all the different question types, master that tricky 50-word summary, and finally, we'll wrap it all up into a winning strategy that you can take right into the exam hall.
All right, let's just start by talking about that feeling. You know the one. You turn the page in the exam, and there it is, this wall of text, a passage you've never seen before, and you can almost hear the clock ticking in the background. The first reaction for most of us? Yeah, a little bit of panic. But what if we could just flip that whole experience on its head?
I mean, that moment where the pressure just builds and builds, we've all been there. But the absolute key is not to let it get to you, because the goal here isn't just to survive reading the passage.
This is the crucial mindset shift right here. You're not just a passive reader, you're an active information hunter. Think of it like this. Your mission is to dive into that text and pull out specific answers, and you have to do it fast.
And that brings us to our number one technique, reading like a detective. We're going to use a passage from a Roald Dahl story as our case study today. Because in these passages, every little detail, every single description is a potential clue. And your job is to spot them.
Okay, take a look at this tiny detail. I was 8. Seems super simple, right? It's the kind of thing you might just read right past without a second thought. But a good detective, they pay attention. This isn't just a piece of the story, it's a vital clue.
So why does a small clue like this matter so much? Well, because later on, a question might ask why the boy had to be lifted onto the dentist chair. The answer isn't spelled out for you, but this clue, his age, is the key piece of evidence you need to figure it out.
And here's another set of clues. You see, the author doesn't just say, "they talked." No, he describes a whispered conversation and the mother's grim expression. These words were chosen very, very carefully to make you feel a certain way.
These kinds of details are your window into the passage's whole tone and mood. Words like whispered and grim, they scream seriousness and tension. So as a detective, you're already starting to guess that something unpleasant is probably about to happen, and that helps you understand the whole picture.
Okay, so we've put on our detective hats and we've gathered our clues. Awesome. Now comes the next phase of our investigation, using those clues to crack the different types of questions that they're going to throw at you. First up, let's talk vocabulary. A typical question asks for the meaning of the word grim. Now, think about the context. The mother has this look right after a whispered conversation with the doctor. So, what's the vibe here? It's pretty serious, right?
Now this is where being precise really matters. The word worried is kind of close, sure, but grim is stronger. It suggests a deeper, more forbidding kind of seriousness. So the best answer? Serious. It just perfectly captures that heavy mood from the story. Your job is always to find the most accurate word.
Okay, next up is an inference question. And this is where all that detective work you did earlier really starts to pay off. The answer to this isn't just sitting there in one single sentence. You've got to connect the dots.
And there it is. We connect our very first clue, that he was only 8 years old, with something we just know from real life, that a dentist's share is pretty high. So the logical conclusion is he was too small and needed a lift. See? You didn't guess. You figured it out using the evidence in the text. Now for the big one, the 50-word summary. I know this question can feel super intimidating, but it's actually a very logical process. We just need to break it down into a simple, manageable recipe.
So here is the 4-step formula. 1. Pinpoint the exact start and end points the question is asking about. 2. Make a quick list of only the key actions that happen in that section. 3. And this is probably the most important part, you have to stick to objective events, not what people were feeling or thinking. And finally, number 4, write it all out as concisely as you can and then double-check that word count.
So let's see this in action with this chunk of text. What are the key actions? Well, the doctor boiled water and sterilized an instrument. A nurse tied an apron and held a bowl. See what I mean? It's just a sequence of objective facts. There's no emotion, no filler, it's just what happened.
Whew, okay. We have covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from feeling that initial panic to having a really clear strategic plan. So let's just boil everything down into a final set of rules that you can take with you right into that exam.
All right, here they are, your 4 golden rules. Number 1, read like a detective, hunt for those details. 2, use the context to find the most accurate word meaning. 3, connect the clues to answer those tricky inference questions. And 4, follow the simple steps to write a perfect, fact-based summary.
And I'll just leave you with this final thought. When you use this strategy, you're not just getting marks on a test, you're building a real skill in critical thinking and analysis. So what if this part of the exam, the one that used to be a hurdle, actually becomes your new superpower, the section where you know you're going to shine?